Look, sports TRT is not for the faint of heart. And for simplistic calculations, we will couch sports TRT as 220 milligrams a week to 320 milligrams a week of testosterone. You go above 320, you're basically in cycle territory. Some people consider 300 a week cycle territory, but for the purposes of this video, let's consider 320 and above a testosterone cycle. But below that and above 210, you're at sports TRT. Let's talk about what sports TRT is and why it can be extremely fucking awesome. And then let's get into how you can tolerate sports TRT, get away with it, get insane level anabolism, and still have sexual function that trounces mere TRT doses while keeping lipids, hematocrit, blood pressure, and health in check, and being able to walk away an absolute beast. All right, before we start the video, look, Cortex Labs, which is my company's a TRT guidance, coaching, and consulting company. Got a range of different products. Two primarily important things. Recently just launched high-dose TRT Master. I mean, if you want to learn how to do sports TRT and have great libido and erections, this is the course for you. If you're tired of dosing these minuscule amounts of tests and still not getting results, trust me, your life will be better if you just get high-dose TRT Mastery. It's a video course. It's 20% off. Code is on the screen. It is yours now in under a minute. Get it down in the description. Coaching. Look, if you need to hire me for fixing sexual dysfunction on TRT, specifically libido and erection issues, getting you back to the youthful style sexual function while dialing in you on a forever protocol, that is what I do. I promise you we will get results. That is what we do as a company. 50% off. Code is on the screen. We run those once a year, once in a lifetime opportunity to get on board with me. Let's do it. You book, we're on the fact-finding call that day or the next day, and we start. You can put your TRT woes aside and finally get dialed in and feel amazing. And on the homepage of Cortex Labs, you can find a variety of guides and video courses on TRT specifically for sexual function. All right, so let's run through the benefits of sports TRT, assuming you get the protocol right and compare it to just regular TRT. First and foremost, anabolism. Yeah, I mean, you're pushing cycle level territory. Like say you're on 250 milligrams of test a week. The muscle protein synthesis and the anti-catabolism that you're going to get just from that dose will be so substantial that your even moderate work at the gym is going to show up on your body a lot faster and a lot more significantly. If you step that up a notch and you go to the gym 5 days a week or 6 days a week and you're really progressively overloading, lifting heavier weights as each week goes on, your body will transform in the matter of a month noticeably, and if you stick with it for 3 months, I mean, you're really going to pack on a lot of muscle. And sports TRT level muscle is keepable muscle. I've been on sports TRT 2 different times, and almost immediately the pumps were there. My body was bigger. I could lift heavier, but within a month, like I was a completely different looking person. Compare that to TRT. I mean, if you're at 120, 140, yeah, you're just above the level of a natty. So your degree of anabolism will be stronger than a natty because you have a little more steady state testosterone and you're injecting, more at a time. And the kinetics are definitely different, but it's not going to be that much better than a natty. You're on 250, completely different story. Super upgrade from just TRT. Secondarily, now this comes with a condition if you've got the estrogen DHT ratio in the right place and your injection frequency in the right place, your erections will be harder than any day of a good TRT protocol plus Cialis. The nocturnals, the erections for sex, I mean, they are going to be youthful level. Like think about your most horny time when you had the strongest erections in your life. If you dial in sports TRT correctly, that's what you'll have. Not to mention, you're keeping your penis extremely healthy by all the oxygenation and blood flow via nocturnal erections, of which on sports TRT you will have many, either most nights or all nights. Thirdly, your libido is extremely primal. Like this is where you cross over into libido being bothersome. People talk about that. The libido is bothering them in the middle of the day. And it's for some people, it's messing with their marriage and shit, or they're an absolute beast with their wife or girlfriend. Yeah, sports TRT is where your libido goes on overdrive. All of the factors, the dopamine, the androgen receptor binding, the DHT in the brain, the optimization of the limbic system, the sensation, the climax, all extremely powerful, and that primal libido is fully restored. Then there's energy. Yeah, I mean, think of it this way. If you had taken a load of nootropics that were targeted for your brain, things like modafinil or racetams, as well as like consumed a good degree of caffeine throughout the day and it didn't give you any side effects, that's essentially the kind of energy that you feel when you're on Sports TRT. You know, from 6 in the morning or 9 in the morning, whatever it is you wake up, till between 9 and 11 p.m. whenever you go to bed, you're pretty much on. You don't really have an off switch. You're dominant, you're productive, your brain fires on all cylinders, and you feel amazing. Vigorous Steve and I have talked about this before. The level of productivity just with high-dose TRT alone, compared to lower-dose TRT, but compared to natties, it puts you on a completely different level. All right, all that said, we know Sports TRT, high doses of testosterone are amazing. They do all those things. How do you tolerate it? We'll go to Steroid Plotter and talk about this, but the most important thing that I can leave you with in attempting Sports TRT is inject less frequently. Do not be injecting every day or every other day. You think you're going to keep the estrogen down and keep your ratios in the right place, and oftentimes you end up not doing that. It's too much continuous testosterone exposure without a break, and ends up mucking with the sexual function. You'll get all the anabolism and all that. The sexual function is probably going to be not great. Let's talk about a dose. Let's talk about 250 without taking an AI and DHT derivatives. We'll get to controlling estrogen in a second, but let's start with this. The first way that I would do this is to split this up into 140 milligram increments every 4th day. All right, so let's select that dosing schedule and just sort of see where we end up. Okay, and then we plot. This is what your curve looks like. If you look at this, this is essentially 250 a week. It's like 209 or 242 or something like that. If you can split up into 140 milligrams every 4th day, your peaks are sitting around 1,500. But here's the thing. You do trough back down, so you have yourself a little bit of a break to keep the ratios in place, but you don't drop much further than that. So that cycle level anabolism, the energy, the strength, the masculinity, the erections, the libido, they're all going to be there. This is one way to do Sports TRT where it's gapped out enough to where you don't have a mismatched DHT to estrogen ratio, and therefore you have sexual dysfunction. You still get a mini peak, and you're troughing for a good degree of that effect duration window. So again, you're not constantly exposed to estradiol. That is the trick with higher dose TRT. Do it less frequently. I promise you, if you're injecting every day or every other day, you're going to have a lot more problems with sexual function, have to manage the estradiol with aromatase inhibitors or DHT derivatives. All right, so that's one way to do it. That is one of the most sound ways to do around 250 milligrams in a 7-day period, is to do 140 every 4th day. If you wanted to be entirely accurate, you would do, I think, 143 every 4th day, and that would get you exactly 250. But for all intents and purposes, this gets you basically 250. Now, the other way to do this without an AI, right? For a lot of folks, yes, the estrogen is definitely going to be elevated, but because you've got a specific frequency, just enough time here to where you're getting a trough throughout and less continuous exposure of estrogen to the tissues, a lot of folks actually don't need aromatase inhibitors. Look, I'm a coach on this. I see this all the time. People come to me for TRT and sexual function. People also come to me for cycles. People come to me running Sports TRT or wanting to know how, and this is what I see. So you're just on that line. I would not be doing every 3rd day of anything. I'd not be doing every other day, and I would not be doing every day. Now, let's take this whole 250 and punch in every 7 days, and let's look at that curve without an AI. All right, here, the kinetics look a lot different. You only peak at about 1630 here, but because you're doing this once a week, you trough all the way back down to, what does it look like, 1200 or something, 1250, 1280 is your trough point. Very reasonable. Then you get an even bigger gap. You get even less continuous exposure to estrogen. You maintain a good androgen-estrogen ratio. You have the killer erections, you have the libido, and you get to have the anabolism. That peak from your injection, your once-a-week injection, over the next 2 to 6 days, I mean, you are in absolute anabolic crazy mode. You feel great. Your erections are super hard. You do not need Cialis with this stuff. Again, if you're one of those people that doesn't need an AI, and there's surprisingly more than not, it's like people can take higher doses as long as they gap them out. They need less estrogen control, if any. It's people doing higher doses or even medium doses way close together, end up at the wrong ratios, and they need estrogen control. If you're doing sports TRT, again, 140 every fourth day or 250 every seventh day, this is the best way to do it. You've got to determine, wouldn't really be, focused too much on the estrogen number, but after 3-4 weeks on this, determine how is sexual function. Then maybe go run the labs. If it's crappy and you have no erections at all, maybe then go run the lab, see where estrogen is, and let's move on to controlling estrogen if so. But a lot of people are going to be able to run doses like this. They'll see and not have sexual dysfunction. The estrogen will be high, yes, but you're going to have enough androgens to support that level of estradiol and support that state, and sexual function will stay intact. It'll be way better than TRT. All right, no, so back to the 140 every fourth day, okay? Again, only peaking at about 14 something, 1448, 1450, and then troughing back down to high 1300s. Your ratios there are probably going to be good. But if for some reason you can tell that erectile quality is bad, or I should say that you could tell that you're estrogen dominant in this without enough DHT to balance that ratio, the driver of that or the known indicators would be a floppy erection that you really can't get up or sustain, but your libido is still very high. At that point, 25 to 50 milligrams of zinc a day, probably going to solve that problem, right? Zinc acts as an aromatase inhibitor. It's one of the strongest natural compounds you can use to actually block estrogen, and it will lower the estradiol. At the same time, in these cases, again, just to nudge yourself in the right ratios, you don't need a lot of estrogen control. I'd be dosing, if you're dosing an aromatase inhibitor, take it a anastrozole, either 0.125 or 0.2 once every 7 days. That's all you need to take in this point. Again, you don't need, especially with these high androgens, you're not going to want to push the estrogen too low. You will get out of balance. There'll be a mismatch there, and you'll have problems related to libido and erections, possibly other side effects if you do that. Right, you want to go real easy on the AIs here. 0.125 or 0.25 once every 7 days of anastrozole. All right, give that a few weeks. Don't be freaked out if something feels like it's wrong right away. Your body's going to need time to balance. But with that, it's like you're not crushing the estradiol too much to get it way out of the zone in a totally mismatched ratio, and you're likely to end up in the right place. I'd start off on the lower end of that anastrozole dose at 0.125 once every 7 days. Now, the same can be said with this dose with Primobolan or Masteron. I wouldn't go 1-to-1. So if you're at, roughly 250 a week in total testosterone intake, I would not be dosing 250 of Primo or 250 of Masteron. I'd start at 100 of one or the other and do that once every 7 days, right? The best way to control estrogen if you're using, drugs like anastrozole or DHT derivatives, which have their own way of controlling estrogen, is to do it with less frequency, all right? You don't want to crush it. You want to give your body time to go through the entire effect duration window, the kinetics of that drug, and then come back to homeostasis where you stay roughly right around your sweet spot in estradiol. 100 milligrams Primo once a week, right? Injected intramuscularly, or 100 milligrams Masteron once a week, injected intramuscularly. Now, the tricky thing about doing the 250 every 7 days, you might think, oh, well, maybe I bump that anastrozole up to 0.5 or 0.75 once every 7 days. Actually, because you have this trough, you get a lot less exposure to estradiol over the effect duration window, and you'd want to take the low ends of those doses. Again, 0.125 anastrozole once every 7 days, maybe once every 10 days. You do not want to push it, guys. Believe me when I tell you, even though you think this is going to give you loads of estrogen, you're going to have a trough. At the tissues is where the estrogen matters. You might need even less of everything. Again, 60 to 80 milligrams of Primo once a week, 60 to 80 milligrams Masteron once a week. You don't want to be one of those guys, and I see them all the time, and I'm like the only one out here correcting for this, that are taking high doses of tests, and you're just throwing down tons of Masteron or Primo, and you're crushing your libido because you're crushing the estrogen too much. Right? You got to stay in a tight window of everything. Too much crushing estradiol is going to mess things up. Yeah, those are just a couple of the primary protocol examples, but let me be clear with you guys. Sports TRT, not for the faint of heart. Not everyone's going to be able to get away with it. Most people can make it work. You need to control estrogen less than you think. You should have your frequency control the estrogen for you via the DHT you're getting, controlling the estrogen for you. And if you have to use aromatase inhibitors or DHT derivatives, again, because libido's high but erections are not working, go low and be careful. Now, the duration that you should be running sports TRT, in my opinion, is like 3 to 4 months. You're going to pack on a ton of muscle. You see where you end up with, but you monitor your lipids, your blood pressure, and your hematocrit throughout. Okay, if you run that and you do nothing, no additives, and all those things are fine. Largely, it's a sustainable dose for you as long as you're continuing to monitor your health. Once every couple of years, go get an echocardiogram. Those levels of testosterone are not going to give you left ventricular hypertrophy. Okay, that is not in the literature. The literature actually shows a 600 or more has really no deleterious outcomes. Hematocrit, right? The single best way, in my experience, to control hematocrit, well, there's two ways. You go give blood, right? If you're wanting to take that shot and do sports TRT, you might have to go donate blood. If your hematocrit's pushing 52, 53, 54, and you're having side effects, just go donate blood. The second single most effective way to control hematocrit is just to take between 200 and 700 milligrams of naringin. It's the extract from grapefruit, which we know lowers hematocrit every day, every other day, or every third day. All really depends on how potent that compound is for your hematocrit. I would be frequently checking it so that you can see over the course of a month where it's going down to. Water, all right? It's one of the single best ways to control hematocrit in your blood. You've got to drink a lot of it. You're probably pushing about 3/4 of a gallon or a gallon a day. But again, if you want to take that risk, you want to go on sports TRT and get all those benefits, you might just have to drink a lot of water. Some people don't have to. My hematocrit didn't really get all that out of control on sports TRT. Others, maybe they have to, but you've got to stay on top of that. The cardio is absolutely critical. First, you're going to have the fuel and the energy to do more cardio via all that testosterone. I mean, you feel physically like an animal, so do the cardio. Get on the treadmill. I mean, and whether on TRT or otherwise, you're an adult male. You have no excuse unless you have broken legs or otherwise, like something super limiting, to not be doing cardio. Get on the treadmill, run until you've burned 150 to 300 calories every other day. Go on some big, long walks. Believe me, do the cardio, okay? It's your responsibility to do the damn cardio anyway. You have to. If your lipids are out of whack, okay, it's a 3 to 4 month cycle. Now you know. Now you go back to TRT, right? You figure out the dose that makes sense for libido interactions. You have somewhat energy and anabolism's okay, and then you maybe reapproach it down the line, look into taking a ezetimibe or otherwise things that control your lipids. Supplements like tocotrienols are actually very effective in that they have the same mechanism of action as statins, and they're less harmful. And that is essentially the gist of it, right? If you go do sports TRT and everything goes completely out of whack, but your libido erections are great and you're strong, well, that's a signal you've got to do something about your health. Again, drink more water, do the cardio, start taking some stuff to manage those things. You've got to be on top of it. But I can promise you this, over the years I've seen in coaching that a lot of guys can tolerate. As long as they're gapping out that injection that I'm constantly doing every other day, that's where you get elevated hematocrit that never goes away. You have consistent stimulation of red blood cells, consistent stimulation of estradiol, consistent estradiol at the receptors. All those things contribute to the side effects that you experience on sports TRT. Gap the frequency out, manage your health, and you're going to find you're probably able to tolerate it. Look, if you guys need help on this stuff, sports TRT specifically, I mean, I've been doing this for years. We can coach you on getting everything dialed into the point where you're happy with where you're at and you get to enjoy the benefits. Otherwise, regarding TRT, if you need to dial in on a protocol that has you set forever with erections, libido, sensation, climax, energy, anabolism, dialed into your physiology, that is what we do as a company. I am a results-driven coach, and I promise you, you give me 3 to 6 months, and we will get you squared away. Right now, coaching is 50% off. We run those once a year. All right, this is a once a year opportunity. If you've been thinking about getting on board, there is no other better time because this is going to go away. The code is on the screen, saves you thousands of dollars on either a 3-month one-on-one protocol architecture program with me or a 6-month one-on-one TRT protocol architecture program. It's really for people that don't want to waste the time, have the budget, want to hire an expert. I mean, there's things in my business that I just will not touch. I'm hiring the guy who's been doing it for a decade. That is what we are regarding TRT. Just launched secondarily as an alternative if you don't want to do coaching, High Dose TRT Mastery. Okay, it's a video course that shows you how to do sports TRT, how to mega dose TRT without having side effects, achieve great libido interactions, and cycle level anabolism. This is a course that a lot of you guys have requested via email and on the YouTube channel, and I put it together a week and a half ago. It is brand new. and I'll give you a discount code. 20 now on the screen saves you 20% off this course. It's an hour-long, protocols inside. You download it immediately. It is yours. You get results in the description of this video. Again, if you go to the homepage at livecortex.com, there's Mastering Libido and Erections on TRT, Mastering Testosterone Cypionate for Libido and Erections, Source List, Mastering Testosterone Cream, every product, any product you could ever need to dial in on TRT and get great results down in the description of this video. All right, my brother in test. Look, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you for this one. I need you to do me 2 favors. Number 1, like the video. If anything I said here made sense or resonated with you, like the video. You know what? YouTube is then going to show you all of our future videos that you will want to see and like to see and get value from. Sub to the channel. It goes without being said, but I'd love to have you on board, man. I'm in the comments answering questions, talking to people, content daily, shorts daily, live streams every Saturday. I'd love to have you on board. Otherwise, I have talked about megadosing TRT before and doing it the right way. I'm going to leave you with a video that sums the rest of this up. You're going to want to watch it, bro. Okay, kick ass, rock on. Enjoy the rest of your day, man. I'll talk to you in the next one.